I love what Donald Trump did for us as an economy while he was in presidency, and I don't know what she has to offer because she's new. So that's kind of like taking a chance on her, you know.
The 4 years he was in office, we were doing good, absolutely good. You know, Kamala, she's already in office and ain't done. And I mean, there was more work too. We were able to afford things.
A new poll shows that Latino voters' support for Kamala Harris has dropped, proving that Kamala and the Democrats are underwater. To be clear, these new polls show a huge shift in our American politics. And so what we're going to do in this video is take a look at what these Latino voters had to say about Kamala Harris and also look at the poll itself. Let's start here.
We have some new polling, a new view of a potentially decisive factor in November, the Latino vote. That demographic now makes up the second largest eligible voting bloc in America. And our latest poll shows Vice President Harris has a 14-point lead over former President Trump among Latino voters. However, that is the smallest edge for Democrats in years. Let's discuss all of this with NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki at the big board. Give us the details of all this polling. Break it down for us.
Yeah, Anna, I mean, the key is what you were saying at the end there about, look, on the surface here, this is a 14-point lead among Latinos for Kamala Harris. But the key is the context. What has this looked like among Latino voters in past elections, in recent elections? These are the exit polls. You go back to 2012. Remember, Barack Obama was running for re-election. He won the Latino vote by 44 points. Hillary Clinton by 38 in 2016. Joe Biden by 33 in 2020. And then look here, that drop, the drop in that number down to 14 points now in our poll. This has been one of the key questions since 2020 when we saw Republicans make some gains with Latinos then. Could they lock those in? Could they expand them? Our poll suggests they may very well be expanding those gains they made in 2020.
Okay, so the bottom line is what up front here? 30-point drop in Latino support for Democrats since 2012. I mean, that's huge. Okay. Now, my theory behind this, before he gets more into depth about, you know, the gender and the religion and all this other stuff, is just common sense. A lot of Latinos are hardworking. They're part of the working class. You know, they're involved in a lot of trade work, and they don't have time for the games that the Democrats have been playing. And so they see the Republicans as more of a political party who's trying to do right by the working class. Now, you may argue and say, well, Republicans and Democrats both haven't really done much for the working class. And I would actually agree with you on that because it seems like they can't get anything done. And that's why you have this whole populist movement that's come about since Donald Trump became president back in 2016. The point, though, is that the more that the Democrats continue to be woke and progressive with their policies, the more men, younger men, Latinos, even black men are going to become Republican or at the very least independent. They are not going to play those games with the Democrats. Now, this matters a huge deal because when you're thinking about whether Trump gets elected or not, where will we be over the next 4 years when the next election happens? We're going to see a different shift in the politics as far as the numbers are concerned when it comes to the Republican Party. If things continue to go the way they've been going, you might just see where one party is predominantly supported by men and then another party is predominantly supported by women. That's if we continue to go down this road currently that we're on, where Democrats are heavily marketing and targeting women versus Republicans are targeting just working class, whether you are a woman or a man. But these younger adults, these younger men, definitely under 50, support the Republican Party more than the Democrats.
What's driving it? A couple of big gaps here. There's a gender gap. Among men, the Trump-Harris race is tied. Among women, Harris with a 26-point lead. Among Hispanic women, there is an age gap. Younger, under 50. Harris only ahead by 3 points. Over 50. Look at that. She leads by 30 points. Then layer those on top of each other. Gender and age. And you start to see more divides. Men under 50, Trump with an advantage of 9 points over Harris. Harris leads men over 50, women under 50. And then look at this. Harris's core group, Hispanic women over 50 years old. Look at the gap between Trump with young men and Harris with older women. A lot of room in between those two, a giant gap. And we also have this. We talk about an education divide. We talk about this a lot with white voters. It's become one of the big features of the white electorate. You see it here, starting to see a little bit with the Hispanic electorate. Men without a four-year degree voting for Donald Trump, they say, by a margin of 13 points right now. And again, women with a college degree go to the other end of things. It's 26 points for Harris.
Okay, we already know why those numbers are what they are. It's very simple. I mean, college is an indoctrination camp. It's 99% liberal. I mean, you might find maybe one or two conservative professors on campus, maybe. That makes sense why, when you're college educated, you're going to lean liberal, okay? It's only when you don't go to college or you're not really exposed to those ideas and you're out in the real world, you start to see why a lot of those ideas don't make any sense. And now I've gone to college. My wife went to college. And listen, I'm a firm believer that college is a scam, unless obviously you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, you're getting the trades, something of that nature. But if you're going for a liberal arts degree, keyword liberal arts degree, I don't see how that is really a benefit to society, in my opinion. Now, there's another theory of mine that I believe contributes to why Trump continues to win people who have no degrees versus people who do. And I think it comes down to where our country is today. Political correctness. That is a main priority with people who have degrees overwhelmingly, okay? They are very sensitive to people's behavior, very sensitive to rhetoric. Anything you might say could offend them. People overwhelmingly who do not have a degree and who have been in the streets or have had to figure things out on their own, they can care less what somebody says. They judge people based off what they do. That's the difference even in this election. If you want to judge both candidates, just judge them based off what they've done. And if that's the case, Trump should be the next president. Because as far as I'm concerned, and we can look at the numbers and we can go through it over and over and over again, and some people don't even care to believe, they don't even want to acknowledge the truth that Trump did a great job as president. Now, the biggest thing that distracts people from seeing that is obviously January 6th and the propaganda from the media. Besides that, he did everything that you're supposed to do as a president, which is don't jack things up. And he didn't do that. He actually made things better. On the other hand, you have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who clearly jacked things up. So there's that.
And we also have, this is interesting, a religion gap. Look at this. Among Catholic Hispanics, Harris is leading. She's leading big by 20 points. Among Protestants, total reversal. Trump leading by 26 points. So some of the gaps there, some of the sort of gaps between and within the group, they explain how it's only 14 total right now for Harris.
So one might ask, how could this be possible? Knowing that Kamala Harris does not support any restrictions on abortion, how could Catholics get behind that? Now, listen, I'm not a Catholic, and I don't mean to offend any Catholics, but I do believe that it is deranged to be voting for Kamala Harris. I don't understand how Catholics can square her position on abortion, square her position on immigration. In fact, the Pope recently came out and delivered a double binding message, one that could just confuse people, kind of voiced his support for immigration, but then voiced his contempt for abortion. I mean, Kamala Harris stands for both of those issues. So I don't know how they square that. If you're a Catholic, maybe you can explain it in the comment section. I don't know. But for Christians, it's very clear. Abortion is murder. There's no way to negotiate that. And Christians also believe in law and order. There needs to be an orderly fashion to things. So just opening the border and letting people come over is just not going to cut it. And that's how they see Kamala Harris. So it's very interesting that that happens to be what the numbers are. Okay, so now we're at the point of the video where we're going to hear from these Latino voters. And before we play the clip, just understand, they understand what the results are. They know what a Trump presidency delivered for them. And they kind of know what a Kamala Harris presidency will look like based on the last 3.5 years. Let's watch.
Yeah, Anna, so I am on the east side in Las Vegas, which is the Latino part of town. And I've been speaking to voters here for a few days, and a couple of things stand out. First of all, it is near universal that the first answer that I get when I ask people what is the main issue that they care about is the economy, particularly the cost of living, pretty much without exception. Beyond that, though, there is a diversity of opinions. And the impression that I've gotten from talking to people here is that this is a community that is torn between the two candidates. And as the polling shows, they're torn between the two candidates and two parties more so than they have been in, the last 20 years. And that really comes out in talking to voters because they're torn within their households. They're torn within the community. They're even torn within themselves in choosing who they're going to vote for, which issues, which values are the ones that are going to ultimately guide their decisions at the ballot box. I want to play you clips from a couple of interviews that I did recently over the course of the weekend at a park very near where I am now, where there was a youth soccer league happening. We were talking to some parents, and I'm going to play you clips from two different interviewees, and then I'll talk a little bit about kind of what I concluded from both. Take a listen.
I love what Donald Trump did for us as an economy while he was in presidency, and I don't know what she has to offer because she's new. So that's kind of like taking a chance on her, so that's what I mean. But I do like how she is doing a lot of things for small businesses.
The 4 years he was in office, we were doing good, absolutely good. Kamala, she's already in office and ain't done. And, there was more work too. We were able to afford things.
Key word, we were able to afford things. Afford, right? That's the problem in this election is affordability. And people know that when Trump was the president, that was not a problem, affordability. Taxes was not a problem. Affordability was not a problem. Overall, it was a great economy. You cannot go back and say, oh my God, when Trump was the president, the economy was crazy. Nope, that's not the truth. So we are where we are today, where these voters are definitely aware. These Latino voters are definitely aware, which is why the numbers are the way that they are. So that wraps up the first poll that came out showing how the Latino vote has shifted from Democrats to Republicans, and it's just getting worse for them. Now let's talk about another demographic that are crucial to this upcoming election. And again, it's bad news for Kamala Harris, which sums up the final point as it pertains to her as a candidate. She's the worst polling Democrat ever to run against Trump. Let's take a look at this really quick.
Talk to me about manual labor, those folks who went to trade schools.
Yeah, those folks who use their hands. I think a lot of people oftentimes conflate the union vote with those who use their hands. Mike Rowe, of course, has been arguing more people should go to trade schools, more people should get a vocational degree. Look at this margin. This, to me, oh boy, does this tell you about the state of our politics now versus back in the early 1990s. Margin among vocational and trade school grads in pre-election polling. Bill Clinton was leading that vote over George H.W. Bush by 7 points. Look at where Donald Trump is today over Kamala Harris, a 31-point advantage. When I think people think of the working class, they think of people who use their hands, and we know that Donald Trump has been going after that vote, and he is in a very, very strong position, more so perhaps than any other bloc. The folks who go to trade school, vocational school, that has moved from being a core Democratic group to now being a core group of Donald Trump's massive amount of support among the working class.
So when you see those numbers, what does it tell you? It tells you that the Republicans have become the party of the working class, the blue collar worker, and the Democrats, they have utterly failed in that department. They have not delivered on their promises. If you look at the policies that Trump is offering in this election, it's no wonder he's up 31 points. Right? I mean, Kamala Harris does not represent blue collar workers. We know this. Her record doesn't show that. Joe Biden's record doesn't show that. But Trump's record does show that. So if you're Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party, you see these numbers and you've got to be screaming at this point, because that means there's been some damage that has been recurring, and that damage has gotten worse, and now it's fatal. Because you have to understand, in this coming up election, the only chance that Kamala Harris has is if women, and I'm talking about every single woman in America 18 plus, shows up and votes for her. Because if that doesn't happen, Trump's the next president. And if he becomes the next president and he wins by a landslide, it's going to be the biggest wake up call for that party. That what they've been focusing on for the past decade is not getting them the results that they want. Focusing on men and women's sports, focusing on allowing all these illegal immigrants to cross the border, focusing on prosecuting Trump. You know what it's doing? It's taking them away from doing what they're supposed to be doing for the American people. So I hope that ends up being the outcome in this election, that Trump blows her out of the water so that the Democrats can learn a lesson. You got to stop lying to people just because you're nice. And you got to deliver on what you said you're going to do. So I believe this time around, when he's talking about putting Elon Musk in there, he's talking about Tulsi Gabbard, he's talking about RFK, I could see real change happening. I think the first time around, he just deferred to the experts, but he's learned his lesson. He knows what he's going to do differently. He knows how he's going to be more effective. And I know that scares the Democrats, but I think what should scare them even more are these polls that we went over in this video today. So what is your opinion? If you are a Latino voter, do you believe these polls are accurate? How do you feel about Trump or Kamala Harris? Put that in the comment section below. Even if you're not a Latino voter, tell me your thoughts about this new information in the comment section as well. Thank you so much for checking out the video today. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.